Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovator Coffee, an English podcast that bridges the gap between people and the world of AI and innovation. Follow us to explore the top AI applications, ecosystem insights, and the emerging trends. In this episode of Innovator Coffee, DaFuguo OnePiece Lab managing partner and Michael, CEO and founder of ZeroG, and Ada, managing director of ZeroG, unpacked how AI and Web3 are fusing to create powerful decentralized systems, from AI agents and GPU marketplaces to blockchain-driven governance. We dive into what the decentralized AI OS looks like, explore real-world use cases, and confront the risks of centralized AI, including security threats like AI-powered phishing. This episode is your front row seat to the cutting edge of AI versus crypto. Don't miss it. Today we're honored to have DaFuguo, head of community of OnePiece Lab, and Michael, co-founder of OG Labs. Hey, Dafu and Michael, can you have a quick introduction about yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Michael, co-founder and CEO of ZeroG, or also known as Zero Gravity Labs, ZeroG.ai. I started on the technology side. I worked at Microsoft and SAP Labs as an engineer and technical product manager on the Visual Studio side, switched over more to the business side, worked for Bain & Company for a couple of years, and then moved to Connecticut to work for Bridgewater Associates, was on the portfolio construction side, saw about 60 billion in trades on a daily basis, so quite fun experience. After that, moved back to the West Coast, started graduate school at Stanford. That's where I got exposed to Bitcoin. Mark Andreessen talked about it. I was a DFJ fellow. Tim Draper talked about it. My classmates talked about it. And I was like, okay, I get the message. I should probably check this out. And read the white paper, bought some initial Bitcoin, and then kind of participated later into ICOs and did really well, and knew at some point that I wanted to be part of the industry in some shape or fashion. But what I was already doing at that time, I was starting my first unicorn company called Garten. It was a B2B wellness company that was also raised from Y Combinator, about 130 million overall, was about 650 people, and drove about 100 million in contracted ARR. And then late 2022, one of my classmates from Stanford, Thomas, called me up and basically said like, hey, we've invested in a number of companies in the past. I invested in a company called Conflux 5 years ago. Two of the co-founders want to do something more global scale. Are you interested in chatting with them? And I said, yes, let's do it. And then 6 months of co-founder dating later, basically came up and decided that Ming and Fun are the best engineers that I've personally worked with, and basically said it doesn't matter what we start, we just have to start something because this is going to be amazing. And so that was really the start of ZeroG. This was May 2023, and we saw at that time kind of the rise of ChatGPT 3, and knew that if we fast forward 10 years from now, that basically all of commerce can start to be automated with AI agents and AI models. And we were quite worried that in that kind of society that basically all of commerce can be controlled by a few companies, which would be a negative social outcome. And so we basically said we need to have an alternative, basically decentralized AI. And that's why we exist, to make AI a public good, and have been building since then. And we can definitely talk more about that. And we also have Ada, who's our managing director of ecosystem, on the calls.
Glad to be here. My name is Ada, and I'm just managing the go-to-market marketing ecosystem and also growth at ZeroG, and also know as a ZeroG mom because I have a 6 months old baby. My background is really colorful, I would say. I start my professional practice as a model in Hunan, Changsha. Soon I moved myself into the e-commerce space. I'm managing kind of like platform called Jumei Youping. Grew the department from myself to about 63 people, managing about 1.2 billion RMB in revenue. When the time I told my boss, Leo Chen, I want to quit, he introduced me to Bob Xu, 真格基金. Then through that, they gave me opportunity to come to United States, particularly in Silicon Valley, to investigate the brilliant student like Leo, starting a company and help them to actually go back China to like get a startup running. And from there, I meet Michael in Silicon Valley. Then because his mission, building the previous company Go My Green, also known as Garden, inspired me. So I joined his company as an employee, grew that company from 3 people over the past 7 years before I go to MIT to 650 people. And we managed the company from the highs and lows. During the COVID, we actually downsized the company to 32 people. Then we regrew that company to 2023, sold that company recently. And on top of that, after I graduated from MIT, I developed a passion towards sustainability and also politician. So I had another degree in Harvard from Kennedy School, and also starting developing my interest in investing. I run an incubator called Inception Studio in Silicon Valley back in 2023, and grew that kind of initiative from 2-3 cohort to later on 8 cohort. Had about 90 founders went through the program, had 32 projects, and more than half of them received the top VC funding. So early this year, I joined ZeroG as a managing director because Michael trusts me and know I can hyperscale a startup from nobody to a unicorn size. So I'm here.
Dafu, how about you?
So I'm currently the partner at OnePiece Labs and also the co-founder. And for me, actually, I got into the blockchain industry back in 2015. And at that time, I was involved with a Asian blockchain incubator called Garage Cafe. So they basically incubated all the biggest exchanges in this world, like Binance, Huobi, those CEO and founders. And because of this connection, so back in 2017, when I joined a Web2 accelerator and also co-working space called OnePiece Work, at that time, during SEO era, so I helped about 80 different projects from Asia coming to the United States, helping them with our community, PR, marketing, and BD. So that is when I started to realize blockchain startups. And back in 2020, so because of the pandemic, so we shut down the previous business. And in 2022, so because of the transportation, especially flight between the US and China was open, so a lot of different OGs came to the United States looking for people to run a Web3 accelerator and incubator. So that is why they always found me, because of my OG connection from the Garage Cafe. And at that time, I thought that was a good time. So that was when I found my co-founder, KJ. So we started this OnePiece Labs, and we had 3 arms. So investment, incubation, and also community. So as for investment, we were backed by Sequoia and several family offices, and we invested in more than 50 different projects, and most of them are planning to TGE or already TGE this year. And as for incubation, the ongoing one is our 7th batch, which is also the 2nd batch with ZeroG in here. And they have done a great job on AI plus Web3, and we hope to bring more amazing founders into their ecosystem. And as for the community side, so we have hosted more than 250 different events, including demo days, hackathons, after parties. And starting from last year, we had this Web3 University tour, which was very successful. And right now, there are about 40,000 people in our community who have joined our previous events. And all in all, across all the media, we had about 100,000 different fans following OnePiece Labs. So that is our background. Yeah.
How does the Accelerator select and support startup, including the AI plus crypto startups?
Frankly speaking, me and KJ, we have run different Web2 communities and also incubation acceleration before. So we have the knowledge of who might be the best for a industry or for a narrative. So we leverage our knowledge and the previous resources and network to check about their team, whether or not they are really into Web3 technology and also the combination of AI and Web3. We work closely with layer 1s and layer 2s and with our team, especially tech team, to decide which team might be the best for their ecosystem. And we mainly care about several things. Firstly, the team, the background of the founders, co-founders, and whether or not they're serial entrepreneur and whether or not they have experience about this. And also the technology. So whether or not they are doing some innovation into this industry, into Web3 or into AI. and of course traction. So traction is very important in Web3 industry. So we care about these three things mostly. And during this interview process, we usually have 3 rounds of interviews. So the first one will be on OnePiece Labs side, and the second and third will be together with our sponsors, layer 1s and layer 2s. So we mainly customize needs according to our sponsor. So different layer 1s and layer 2s, their needs, like what kind of founders they are looking for into their ecosystem. And because we have a huge community, so we can have a very qualified, high quality founders into it. That is how we select the founders and into the accelerator. Yeah.
Cool.
And I guess, just for the time being, and maybe a lot of the audience wasn't really familiar with layer 1, 2, and 3, maybe one of you can give a kind of quick kind of explanation or like a walkthrough what each stands, and then also how would they kind of, be different, and kind of the skills you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe I can address that real quick. And one thing I want to mention on the Accelerator as well, definitely super excited to partner with OnePiece Labs. Dafu and KJ have a nose for talent and really great companies. And so far in our first cohort, we already had one company, TGE, and they were a unicorn at their height. So really proud of them. It's Carve. And there's a few others that are following in their footsteps already. So this next cohort that just kicked off today, we're also super bullish on. So we're hoping we have kind of a unicorn maker in the works, essentially. So we're pulling out all the stops, both from the ZeroG team, the OnePiece Labs team, and many others that are going to support us. We have a cap table of 300 plus investors, which to a Web2 audience will sound crazy, but Web3 is all about decentralization, and that goes down to the cap table because it's about a community first and foremost. And so we want to pull from our cap tables so we can help the right incubation and accelerator companies with the right investors that can make a big impact. So just wanted to mention that as well from the accelerator side. Now, to explain what a layer 1, 2, and 3 is essentially, so you can kind of think of a layer 1 as the base layer. You can run a decentralized application or a DApp on a layer 1. And a layer 1 generally has a few functions. It's got an execution environment, usually some type of virtual machine like EVM or Solana VM, where you can write your kind of smart contract in a specific way. With EVM, you use Solidity. With Solana, you use Rust, for example. So there's different flavors of that. We're a layer 1 as well, because we want to be the base layer for AI fully on chain. And so we can get into that as well. So execution, then it has data availability, it's got consensus, and finally settlement. Those are kind of the 4 key pieces of our layer 1. The consensus is important because you're dealing with distributed systems. It's not just like you're dealing with one server on AWS. You're dealing with many different nodes across a global network very often. And you basically have to figure out, well, what is the right version of history that we should follow? And so you need a consensus. And then you need something called data availability, because you need to actually prove that if somebody creates the block, that you can actually verify it yourself independently, because it's a trustless environment. Anybody can join. So you need to be able to then say, yes, you've reached consensus, but I also want to verify that this block that was created is actually the accurate block, and I can rerun the transactions myself if I need to. So there's a lot of infrastructure in just the layer 1 itself. Now, what's happened over the last few years is that Ethereum, who's one of the most popular layer 1s, only does about 13 transactions per second, which equates to about 80 kilobytes per second in data throughput, which in like Web2 terms is nothing, right? It's very, very slow. And in order to kind of build out the ecosystem, what people have done is they've invented this concept of a layer 2. So you build on top of the layer 1 to get the security guarantees, but you run your applications on a separate layer, on a separate chain. And that chain then settles to the layer 1. And so then it's the same concept of the layer 3, and then you could also do layer 4, although that doesn't really make sense to me. Because you can already speed up layer 2s to such an extent that they're very performant. Our personal perspective is you don't even need layer 2s, because we've built a infinitely scalable layer 1 architecture. So you can just run any type of application in a fully decentralized environment. But yeah, that's kind of the quick explanation.
So just to follow on that, given what you said, when you guys choose, who to kind of enroll in this accelerator, then do you kind of prefer people who are building, the kind of on the layer one ecosystem? What are some of the selection criteria you would have for any startups who kind of apply to the accelerator and eventually deciding who's going to be the lucky ones?
Yeah, and I'll let Ada jump in a second as well. But from my perspective, right now we're pushing kind of on the layer one side, although we don't want to prescribe how builders build, because there's different ways and there's different reasons for why you might need a layer two. Sometimes, or an app chain, for example, maybe you want to adjust the token economics to fit a specific application. And for that, you need really deep customization that maybe a layer one doesn't fully provide. And so then it still makes sense to build on layer two. And for that, we have things like our data availability and our storage and our compute layer that provides things like inference and fine tuning. So it's very modular, so you can choose. But right now, because we've built this high performance infrastructure on the layer one side, we do want people, application builders, to deploy directly on that particular chain. And so right now we're very much focused on kind of core infrastructure needs like DeFi, as well as more consumer facing applications like games, as well as utility applications like AI agents, for example, and real AI agents, not just ones that, like talk about stuff. Maybe some that do like medical coding or medical diagnosis, maybe even, get heartbeat measurements over time in a fully private setting. Whatever the application sphere is. Right now I'm thinking medical because I just heard a pitch about a medical company earlier today. But there's many application areas that we really care about and are good for kind of utility perspective. Ada?
I think on top of that, we also want to make sure the ecosystem fund, like the ecosystem accelerator, is focusing on long term, or the project going to have some potential. So we'll adopt the normal investors kind of evaluating projects criteria, such as the team dynamic and market fit, and also kind of like the team background. Most of the time, the 99% startup die is not because the product, it's actually the team synergies and also the market space. So yeah, that's also into the consideration.